This is my second time filming this video because the first time I recorded for half an hour, went to check on the footage, and it was all deleted off my camera for some reason. My camera just switched off, so I don't have any of the footage. And then I also checked my audio recording, so I thought maybe I could salvage some of that, and it turns out my audio stopped recording after 2 minutes. So this is going to be a bit of a different video, maybe lower quality than usual because I don't have a lot of energy to give nowadays. But this is my experience living with Ehlers Danlos syndrome. Thank you in advance for watching. I'm going to try and set it up so that I'm not shaking this whole time. So give me a second and I'll be right back. It'll be really quick for you. So I have got a little bit of a script, which was originally on my phone, but I'm using my phone to record now because my camera's broken. So I will be reading off my computer, which is in this direction. If I'm looking this way, I'm not being rude. I'm trying to get my words together. So if you've seen my videos before, you would have seen me talking about and complaining about having chronic health conditions. I was nervous to share these because I didn't know how well received they would be to all of my 9 regular viewers. But I figured it's Ehlers Danlos Awareness Month, so it's probably a good time to try and raise awareness for this condition. So I am going to be opening up a little bit about my own experience with the condition. I don't speak for everyone with Ehlers Danlos syndrome or any of the other conditions that I touch on today. So I'm guiding this video by a post from an Ehlers Danlos Instagram page. I've written a little script. Again, I will be looking this way for it. You cannot judge my side profile. I'm trying my best here. A bit of an introduction, a little bit about me first. I'm Tia, I'm 25. I am in a managerial role for an allied health team, and I'm currently in my final year of my youth mental health masters. I run a queer book club once a month, and I love reading. I'm a bit of a gamer, and I also dabble in arts and crafts like crocheting when my condition allows it. So I've had symptoms as long as I can remember. I had issues with fainting as a kid, which we later discovered might be due to POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's a pretty common comorbidity for people that have Ehlers Danlos syndrome. I've had widespread chronic pain my whole life, but didn't have the vocabulary to explain it as a child, obviously. So that meant that I would tell my parents that I felt unwell and couldn't go to school, but there weren't like overt physical symptoms of me being sick because it was mostly chronic pain and fatigue related. So it was all internal, and it was hard to project that outwards as a child. I do remember tests being done at the hospital when I was around ages like 7 to 9, and obviously they came back with nothing. Apparently I had no problems, so we just tried to cope with the information that we had at the time, which was basically nothing. It wasn't until I got COVID when I was 22 and when my symptoms became much worse that I was diagnosed with Ehlers Danlos syndrome. More specifically, I have the hypermobile type. I think this is the most common type of Ehlers Danlos syndrome. Some of the other ones have more, I guess, life-threatening and serious complications. hEDS, yeah, is mostly related to the hypermobility, although of course you can have pretty significant health outcomes. It took 2 rheumatologists to get the right diagnosis of Ehlers Danlos. The first one gave me codeine for the pain and then sent me home. And the second one took an extensive history and actually tested me on the Brighton scale, which is a testing scale which basically rules out whether you have a connective tissue disorder. So I think it also tests for Marfan syndrome as well. I might put pictures of that on the screen just so you understand like what hypermobility can look like. Maybe it can help someone reach out to their GP or their rheumatologist or anyone to address some symptoms you might be having. Within the same appointment with the actually good rheumatologist, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is another common comorbidity, relates a lot to nerve pain, widespread chronic pain, that kind of stuff. My GP has obviously been a huge help in trying to figure out what was causing all of my health problems. My stepmom was also a big help in this process. She's the first one that brought up investigating if my symptoms were related to Ehlers Danlos syndrome. I remember after I had the COVID stuff kind of go away, and then I was left with all these other health problems that I hadn't had for about 10 years. That's when she sort of was like, I've seen what Ehlers Danlos syndrome looks like. Maybe check out if that's what's going on. And she was right. So fun fact, it did take 17 years after I first remember having symptoms to actually get a diagnosis. And this is including all those years that my dad had to pop my shoulders back in after they'd slip out from the ages of 8 onwards. The fact that it took 17 years to diagnose isn't rare. It is pretty common that diagnosis takes upwards of 10 years for Ehlers Danlos syndrome because physicians don't often know about it or test for it. As far as what you see on the outside, you might see a functioning 25-year-old with slight agitation problems, mostly due to the discomfort and pain related to this condition. So I don't let a lot of people know how bad it can really be, and I often keep to myself during a flare-up because I don't really like making people worry that much, but I do love to complain, don't get me wrong. So I'll complain, but I won't like ask for help, which is really good. What you don't see is sleepless nights due to pain and shoulder subluxations just from rolling over in bed. You don't see me oversleeping because the pain affects my sleep quality, which makes me need to sleep more. You don't see the naps I have to take after work due to cognitive fatigue. So you don't always see the days where I can't leave bed except to get food and go to the bathroom because the pain is so unbearable that I'd rather try to sleep the whole day away. You don't see the bad weeks in which I only shower a couple times a week, or when I leave my hair unwashed for 2 weeks because I can't lift my hands above my head. That is a very recent thing that has happened, but I also refused to wash my hair as a child, and I wonder if part of that was due to pain as well, and also maybe some fatigue. I have learnt some good life hacks. Changing your bed sheets can be pretty challenging with this condition if you have wrist instability like I do, but I have learned that you can use a wooden spoon to tuck in your bed sheets under the mattress without having to lift the whole corner of the mattress. Although I still do prefer to have a friend or someone help me with changing the bed sheets because it's also a fatigue problem for me. It's not just the wrist instability. If I don't have a friend helping me, it's pretty grim how often I do change my sheets because it is very difficult to do by myself. The biggest life hack I've learnt, which is, it goes against my nature, is that asking for help actually does work. And if it doesn't, you are not surrounded by the right people. So asking for help doesn't make you bad or lazy. It doesn't make you needy or clingy or reliant. Sometimes you just need a little bit of help to get some stuff done, and that's okay. So I have friends who cook for me when I'm too unwell to look after myself, or I have friends that will offer to vacuum my room if I'm too fatigued. I have family that I visit to take the load off a bit, almost like a little getaway where I get to visit and eat all their food and not think about housework or anything else stressful because I can get looked after. I don't need to cook, I don't need to clean. A lot of the time I can sleep in. When I'm staying with family, I often stay in bed for the whole day. Or majority of the time, like 90% of the time I'm there, I'm in bed because I really see it as an opportunity to rest up and get ready for the next batch of life, pretty much until I can visit again. I do have a lot of symptoms that fluctuate. So fatigue is a pretty consistent part of the condition for me. And I also get pretty significant widespread pain. My joints can get angry for no reason. When I was a child, it was my shoulders. A couple years ago, it was my knees. Now it's my hips and my wrists. So I don't know what flares these things up differently at different times. It is hard to pinpoint because sometimes it's just the weather or the temperature, or you slept funny one night and now your joints are angry for 3 months. So it's a pretty frustrating condition to live with. So yeah, at the moment, my wrists are particularly annoying. I have an inflamed tendon that connects to my thumb, which is making pretty much everything that I do with my hands very difficult. I can't even do stuff that I enjoy, so I can't play the Oblivion remaster at the moment because just pressing a button on the Xbox controller is quite painful. And I obviously haven't been able to crochet for a couple of weeks because the repetitive motion, even just the grip, like I can't grip very well at the moment either. Even just doing that, like this, that hurts, which is annoying. The joint pain and subluxations and everything, like it's all just shit. However, I do like the way these questions are organized because it kind of goes like bad, good, 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 bad, you know, get a bit of variety in there so I'm not just talking down about myself the whole time. But I remember a small win I had a couple months ago after lifting weights for a pretty consistent amount of time. This did eventually lead to a flare-up. Yeah, I was getting strong enough to walk back from the shops with a full tote bag of groceries, which I haven't been able to do for about 3 years. There is a balance that you have to try and navigate between exercising and not causing a flare-up, because once you flare up you need to rest and then you decondition and then the cycle all starts again, which is also pretty frustrating. It's very much a 2 steps forward, 1 step back experience for me. I don't know if it's like that for everyone else, but that's kind of where I'm at with the condition. Shortly after I was excited and happy to be able to carry a full bag of groceries home, I ended up in bed for like a month, which again led to deconditioning, and now I'm really weak again. Things were overlooked when I was a child. I do want to give a bit of a disclaimer that my family is really good and really understanding with the condition now. I think it can be hard to look out for things that you don't know that you're looking for. Even now, there are still symptoms that I have that I didn't know were symptoms. Like my housemate pulled me up the other day and she was like, you cough a lot and like clear your throat a lot after you eat. And I was like, yeah, I've always done that. Is that not normal? And she was like, no, it sounds like you're aspirating, which is basically the way she explained it. I don't know if she's right. She is studying nursing, but she was like, yeah, it sounds like you're getting fluid and food and sauce in your lungs. So that's something that I need to talk about with my doctor. Apparently that's not normal, and I thought it was. Also, that feeling of getting pills stuck in your throat isn't normal either, and I thought it was. There's still things that I overlook now that I didn't know weren't normal. Again, my family is very good with this condition now that it has a name and it has I guess like a treatment, sort of. I can understand why a lot of my symptoms were overlooked as a kid, because again, I did go to hospital, they did do a bunch of tests and they found nothing. So I think it's kind of understandable that my parents were like, okay, I guess we'll just deal with whatever comes up. So I don't hold a grudge against them for that at all. As far as things that were overlooked, widespread pain was overlooked when I was a kid, and it was dismissed by professionals as growing pains until I lost my job and my accommodation to the syndrome at 22 or 23 years old. How often I was calling sick into work and school was also overlooked. Every job I've had, I have called in sick to the point where I run out of sick leave really early on in the position. I also didn't go to school a lot, but again, I couldn't name what was actually going on because I didn't have the vocabulary for it. I didn't even have the vocabulary for it like 2 years ago when I lost my job. Like I had no idea what was going on. The longest I've held down a job is for a year, and like I was scraping through. Migraines, I've had them for about 10 years. They have been overlooked as well. Doctors will just throw medication at it, which is like fair enough. What else are you supposed to do with it? There was a period of my life where I had excruciating gut aches when I was a teenager, and it was just attributed to like my menstrual cycle because I'm a woman with gut aches. I still get treated like that now if I go to hospital with really bad gut aches and some other gut stuff not being great. They only scan my reproductive organs and don't really look at my bowels at all, which they should be doing because you can get a lot of bowel complications if you have Ehlers Danlos syndrome, because guess what? Your connective tissue is affected. I didn't explain what Ehlers Danlos syndrome is. Basically, it's a connective tissue disorder where your body doesn't really know how to read the instructions to make good connective tissue. So I still have connective tissue, it's just not great quality, so a lot of my joints will slip out. I can't believe I didn't explain that. That's so silly. That's the gist of it. Like there's a lot of, I might pop some stuff on the screen at the start of this video as well so you get a little bit more context. I can't believe I took so long to explain it. That's so funny. Yeah, so you can have gut problems with Ehlers Danlos syndrome. And I was getting gut aches to the point where I would faint and nothing was done about it. My hypermobile limbs, especially my elbows and my shoulders, were treated as a party trick until I grew old enough to understand that this is what was causing me pain. And it wasn't until a couple years ago that I realized, oh, that actually really hurts. And my rheumatologist has told me to not do party tricks anymore. So something that made me realize how differently I actually experience day-to-day life is in my new job. I was talking to my boss about all of this and I was like, How do I know when to call in sick? What do I call in sick for? Because I have pain every day, I have symptoms every day, it's very difficult to judge when to call in sick. And she basically said, this is where it's hard because people without chronic illnesses can tell when they're sick. And obviously, again, I have trouble doing that because I have pain and symptoms and everything every day. As far as what I wish people knew about the condition is that it's real and it's very impactful. So this goes for chronic illness in general, but the idea that people with chronic illnesses are lazy or not trying hard enough to get better is really enraging and disappointing to hear, because basically every day is an active fight to not give in and lay in bed all day and get weaker and decondition. I actively have to work at everything that I do, and that's basic things like getting up to go to the toilet, getting up to get food, cooking is especially hard, showering. I contemplate whether I have enough energy for that on a daily basis. So a lot of this condition is learning to pace yourself, which if you push it too far, like I often do because I don't know what the limit is, it can lead to post-exertional malaise. So I do have to cancel plans a lot, ones that I was looking forward to, like gigs, I can't really go to that much anymore. Going to the pub with friends, I have to be very selective about where we go. Is there somewhere I can sit down? Is it far from my house? Is it going to take a lot of time to get there? How many buses do I have to get? Oftentimes, like I won't have energy to shower or get ready or get a train, so I'll have to not shower and get an Uber, but then that's really expensive. So like there's just a lot of daily things that I constantly need to be keeping track of and constantly checking in with myself about how much energy I actually realistically have left. My support system is made up of professionals and loved ones. Professional team is made up of GPs, cardiologists, physiotherapists, exercise physiologists, dietitians, and like mental health therapists. These all need to specialize in Ehlers Danlos syndrome or connective tissue disorders. I have found, I didn't put my rheumatologist in there. I also have a rheumatologist. What was I saying? Oh, they all need to specialize in connective tissue disorders, because the way that the body functions when you have really bad connective tissue is so different to how it can function like normally. Physiotherapists, for example, I was seeing one a couple of years ago who was telling me to do stretches, and they don't work for me because stretching leads to subluxations for me. I was very lucky that the physio I've been seeing recently is more insistent on just walking, just moving. And she takes it at the level that, oh, this is a chronic illness. I know your capacity is quite low. Let's start small. Other physiotherapists have just gone ham with it and been like, do this, this, and this. And it's like all standing exercises, which I can't do for a long time. Finding practitioners and specialists that actually focus on Ehlers Danlos syndrome has been a game changer. As far as a more like personal support network, it's made of my housemates, siblings, close friends and parents. I'm very lucky to have the support of my family, especially in such a big way. The way I can just go down there and like get them to make food and look after me is something that I really appreciate. Get into something a bit tricky now, which is the mental health side of Ehlers Danlos syndrome. It can get pretty grim, especially when going through a flare-up or on high pain days, which is why I've listed a mental health therapist in my team. I don't want to go into it too much because I'm still working through some stuff. Thoughts can be pretty alarming at times when your physical capabilities are basically stripped away from you. My medical must-haves. So I have compression socks, which I think I got from Woolies or just from the chemist. I know you can get fun, funky, cool ones online and stuff. They're expensive. Again, medication always needs to be on hand. Hydrolyte, Gatorade, G-Active, heat bags, cooling pads, Panadol or Nurofen. They don't really work much for me anymore, I think because I've taken them quite a bit. Nurofen is fine for like headaches and stuff. Panadol doesn't do anything. They've given that to me at hospital and it literally does nothing. Like selective over-the-counter medication is fine. And I do also want to look into getting tools that help me open jars and use knives and all that stuff in the kitchen as well, because cooking is very difficult when your wrists don't work. So my greatest barrier to care is cost. I am trying to get on the disability support pension so I can get back to seeing my specialists regularly. I don't have the money for it at the moment because I'm only on job seeker and I'm not working much. So realistically, I can't work that much anyway because of the impact of this syndrome. I did try and apply for disability a couple years ago and they knocked me back. Yeah, every job provider I've spoken to has been like, how are you not on DSP? So hopefully this time I'll get on. Other barriers in the past have included living, I guess like regionally, so in the outer suburbs of Geelong, and there's just like limited care in general, let alone care practitioners that specialise in EDS. Most of my medical team is based in Melbourne, so it makes it more accessible for me to live up here because they're easy to get to with public transport. If I was still living in Geelong, I would need someone to drive me to appointments because I'm unable to drive at the moment as well due to the medications I'm on. So beta blockers actually affect my vision quite a bit, especially with light changes. If there's a sudden light change, I can't see for a bit. So I can't drive. I don't really have a dream medical appointment anymore. I think before I was diagnosed, I just wanted someone to tell me what was wrong with me because not knowing was really difficult and no one knew what they were treating. It was just a weird amalgamation of symptoms where like you'd try to treat one thing and then as a result like 5 other things would come up. I'm very lucky now that I'm diagnosed. I just have regular appointments with my GP at the moment, again because I can't afford specialists, but luckily my GP is really good. I am excited for the research side of it and I think I would like to look more into it as well, but a lot of my research brain at the moment is used for uni, so I don't really look at research in my spare time. But I think last I heard is that they're trying to look for a genetic component for hypermobile Ehlers Danlos syndrome, so they're able to genetically test for some variations of Ehlers Danlos syndrome. They haven't been able to locate a specific gene related to hypermobile EDS, which again would make diagnosis a lot easier. Advocating is very difficult, especially when it's for yourself. I have not been the best at it in the past. I'm getting a lot better at it now. I think it's a lot easier to advocate for yourself when you have names for things. But yeah, my medical team at the moment is really brilliant and I am so lucky that I have a GP that listens. I think that's the key, is finding a GP who is ready to tackle the referrals to a billion different places and all the tests you need done and everything like that as well. Yeah, in the past I would need friends to advocate for me because I still do this now, I would do the typical chronic illness thing of like downplaying my symptoms. It is kind of annoying that if I go to hospital or I see a new specialist, I have to explain what Ehlers Danlos syndrome is. Like if I go to get certain scans done, they're like, what's your medical history? And I'll say it and they'll be like, I don't know what that is, what is it? And it's like, why is it my job to explain a medical condition to you? Living with it is enough. I'm not sure if I've received a lot of advice on Ehlers Danlos specifically, but something that I'm trying to remind myself and that my friends and my boss and my family are really good at reminding me of is that rest is necessary. Yeah, it's not directly related to the condition, but I do get a lot of fatigue as part of the chronic illnesses that I have. So I think it's important to keep in mind when I'm trying to push my boundaries a bit too far. I did like this question where it was talking to your younger self. I wouldn't even talk to myself when I was like 8. I would talk to myself in the peak of this illness when I lost my home and my job. What I would say is, it's shit right now, but the pause in life that you get to figure out what your dream life and next steps look like set you on a path where you end up realizing you're gay, you're living with a friend, and you have an understanding workplace that don't devalue you because of your medical conditions. I don't necessarily believe that everything happens for a reason, but I think it's a good tool to look back on hard times in life and think, okay, but if I didn't go through that, none of the good stuff I have now would have happened. Which I think is true. If I didn't lose my job, then I wouldn't live with my brother for 6 months and help him raise one of his dogs. I am forever grateful for it. To have that support when I really needed it was incredibly helpful. I could never thank him enough for that. And his wife too. I want to include her in this. Brilliant cook. Really good cook. And like emotional support, obviously. I am getting tired and my back hurts. So I think I'm going to leave it there for now and leave it on a high note. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I mostly wanted to do this because there weren't a lot of videos of lived experience of Ehlers Danlos syndrome when I went looking for them. That was a few years ago. There might be more videos now, but a lot of what I found on YouTube was just like lecturers and doctors and like really medical terminology, and it's like, okay, but what does the day-to-day look like? I figured Ehlers Danlos Syndrome Awareness Month is the perfect time to do a video like this. Hopefully this can reach someone where this is what you needed right now. I know I every now and then like to look up lived experience stuff, even though I've been dealing with it for a while, just to see if any new symptoms are normal. It helps me normalize resting as well, to see other people doing it. If I think of any other stories or important bits that I have left out or forgotten, I will put them in the description. There are so many other conditions and health problems that Ehlers Danlos has plagued me with, but if I went into every single one and every single symptom, this video would be 4 hours long. Yeah, if I get enough questions, or you know, it's a different illness awareness month, I might post about it again. I hope everyone's as happy and healthy as they can be, and I will see you all next week.